Hi friends, good morning. Today we are going to see very simple transformation. I just took the question posted on one of the Telegram channel. So this is the sample input has been posted. If you see the input has very simple input, it has two columns, ID and name. And if we perform by batch count of two, if we split by batch count of two, expecting the batch index as another column and have that batch index. For example, if you split by 3, you should get these 3 columns here, 3 rows here, and the index you need to have it here. Exactly don't know the use case, but it's a direct way of accessing the batch index is not a feasible option. At least I didn't find anything the direct way of accessing the batch index except from script 1. So this is typically done with batch index. With the batch index, whatever the number of splitting you've done, so because we will be using the data process as we know, like splitting the in a batch count, we cannot pass it dynamically, so it's a hard-coded value in the design time. Once we select the by batch count, we will be able to access the batch index. So that access, once we access that batch index inside the script, we can set some document property, and with that document property we can use we can populate this value. So this is a very simple transformation. So maybe the use case, I feel like they wanted to assign a batch index and then process it. So I felt like typically when you process split and process it, you can define one process property and process each batch as an individual document using flow control. And once the you can define one batch property or one dynamic process property that serves as unique batch ID. After the batch completes, you can generate one more thing also. That is also can solve. Maybe let's see. We don't know what exact use case, but this is a simple thing I wanted to achieve now. Okay, this is the input, and I wanted to achieve this one. Now let's see how we can do this one in Boomi. So I just created the process already. So if you see the sample input I passed here, and then what I did, I split by batches. So for example, I split by 2. As you know, the batch count default, it says 0. It means per line split the number of lines per document. So specify the number of lines per document. The default is 0, which means that batching is turned off. When batching is turned off, by default, what happens? Each line will be split into a separate line. This is same as setting as batch count 1. So if it means like batch count, you set it as 0 or 1, it will be the same behavior. So now since I have a column headers, I maintain the column headers as it is, and I specified by batch count of 2. Once batch count of 2 is specified, there is no way I can access the batch index, like what is a document, because when you run this document, what I have is the 5 columns with 5 records are there. So first records will be document 1 and this document 2 and this one. So there is no way of you can access the document index. So that you can do with custom scripting here. So what the typical custom scripting I did here, maybe let me enable different theme. Yeah, this makes at least. Okay, this is much better than the black screen. Okay, what I'm trying to do, I imported this package execution util. As you know, like execution util, I think typically is not required because I was in the thought of setting the dynamic process property. That's not required. Execution util is not required. So what I use it, this is a standard script. This 3 lines is standard script. I just added only one property. So this property is basically as you know, like these properties are, these properties are dynamic document properties are attached to a document. So all this, our ongoing document will be stored in the data context property. You can see all the data is referenced from the data context object, which contains following method. So you can use a get data count, get the number of documents that are being processed. So when you say a get data count, what it basically gives is it gives three documents because we have five records and we mentioned split by two. So this will be one document, this will be another document, and this will be another document. It means these two documents will be kept in the data context object. So it means this method will return, I'll also show you this method will return how many, what is the value? It returns three data context object of type is an integer. It returns the number of documents that are being processed. So it means this particular method returns three. So that's why this object will be iterated three times. So it means this loop will be iterated three times. So for each loop, what I'm trying to do, we are going to retrieve entire the data context date. Inside the data context, we have basically two main elements will be there. Like one element will be your get stream, another one will be property. So stream will have all your get the input stream from the document index. So the stream is basically have your entire data. It could be a JSON, it could be XML, whatever it is. Any type of data, it could be stored in the stream. So we can play around with your data once you have retrieve the stream at that particular index. Again, similarly, you have a properties as well. You can say get properties at int, gets the properties object for a given document index. So for that, because since we have three documents, right? So for the by passing the index, you'll get a property specific to that given document index. So you'll get a property. So if you want to set any dynamic properties, document properties, not the process properties, dynamic document properties. Anyway, if you want to know more about the difference between the document and process properties, so please watch a video on my YouTube channel. It's already there. Now I'll go and link it in the description as well for quick access. So for setting up the document property, it's more like a property. So this property is a kind of similar properties. You can see this properties in Java util property. This is comes from the core Java, that's JDK. So this properties is similar. There is nothing different. So you can use a set property and you can use get properties as well. So when you use the set property, this is the, since it's a user defined, so you have to define this prefix, and then this is your actual property that you want to define. So now I want to define a property of name, dynamic document property of name batch underscore index, and then I want to set a value because it's property, right? So properties always have a name value there. This is my name. Since Boomi need to understand this is a dynamic document property, I have to give this one prefix, but this is my property name and this is my value. So you can see that the index I integer is of no I is of type integer. I wanted to increment with +1. The reason because the increment is in Java, the looping always starts from 0. The index always starts from 0. But I wanted to get the values as starting value as a 1. So I'm just going to add it as a +1. So, and then I need to convert that entire value into a string. Why I need to convert that integer into a string is the property, the document properties are process properties. Any properties in Boomi, it by default expects to store in string format only. That is the reason I just converted integer dot to string. Or else you can use, now there is a one more string also like like integer dot value of something also you can use. But there is a methods for converting the integer to string and string to integer. There is a parse int or string parse int, string to string. A lot of methods are there. You can do vice versa, you can convert it. So this is the method I use to convert the integer to string. So now I set this property here. So I went to process property, sorry, document property, and inside the map shape, I define my profile with matching my data. So if you see here, I defined a column headers are there, and the data delimiter was column delimiter was comma, and I didn't have any double quotes. That's why I didn't set any double quotes. Here is the three settings. So here is ID and name, two columns I defined. There is nothing difference. So here I have added additional column. This is where I defined the batch index. So with this batch index, what we did, like the value will be come here. So if you want to print this value, right? Maybe you can just use, want to print anything to Boomi logger, right? So you can just use, so you can just use this one. So writing to process log. So what you can do if you want to log anything, right? So you can just use this one, and you can just use this logger if you want to print anything, like whether it is really going to happen it or not. So what you can do inside this custom scripting step, you can define this execution logger dot. So then you can write the logger statement. You can do the right logger statement is, you can just write the logger statement here. Document index. So you define this document index. So since it's a string type, right? So you define the value of here. So you define the document index, and then basically I'm wrapping up into a square brackets. After that, you put your process property. Process property, you can put at document index. What is the value of here you wanted to get? So similar logic you can do over here to see what is the value it is going to print it. So you can just put batch index here, or else simply you can do, you don't need to do anything, all this transformation already stored, right? So you can use properties dot get, props dot get property. With this property you can just give this value, so this will give you the property. So close this one. So what it will give you is, at this particular index, what is this batch index? It will give you, because as I mentioned, it will start from 0, right? Now let's see. Now let's run this. So what this statement is basically do is, what this statement typically do is, it write to a process log where you can find this is a process log. So it writes the process log, it gets an access to process log, and it prints information to the process log. It prints as info. If you want to print anything as a what you can do, if you print as a other logger types like one, like debug, you can do all these things. You can say document. Okay, it says embedded message data process caused by no such property document for script one. So it says some error the scripting. So that's always a problem with the scripting. So whenever you touch anything in scripting, it always gives some errors. Okay, so this should be a string one here, because okay, this should be a string one because property is of type string. So that's why Bhumi advised not to use custom scripting as long as it is possible and there is no performance issue with inbuilt capabilities. Because as long as you're using any scripting, you have to keep all the dependencies. Whenever you migrate the environment from one environment to another environment, you have to take care of this. And compatible libraries also you need to maintain this one. So it failed again. Let's see why it's failed. Now let's see whether it's logging is happening or not. Says no signature of the method logger or info is applicable for argument types string and string values of index at 0. So it says it's trying to print it. Okay, possible info is java long string. So it says basically get info is applicable for no signature of the method get info applicable for argument types. It means two arguments it won't accept. That's what we're trying to say. Values for document index 0 we got, another value we got like this. Possible values info only of string. It means only one string only it expects. So it's something we might have printed it, but anyway you can see the logs will be printed over here. Now let's say because it's time to. So we should not put this one because this is comma it's expecting as a second one. So we have to put this is the plus. So basically what we are trying to do, we are just putting a double quote static value and then print that index value and then again print static value because all static values need to combine it. And then again we print this value. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to print a string with combination of static and dynamic values to see what index, because the document count also we can be able to verify how many documents are flowing through, because this index itself will give you like how many documents it is flowing through. Hopefully this should not return any error this time. Okay, now if we see value, since we're splitting by 2, we should get the value starting value as a 1 for each of them. Yes. So 2, you can say this one. So now let's go and I verify the log here. What is going to really printing here? You can see executing 3 documents in set batch index. Okay. It means basically it's saying trying to tell the batch the data process step is going to execute in 3 and it's printing the values document index 0. It means document index is 0 since we added a plus 1 here 1. You can see 3 times this document index got printed because it is inside the loop of for loop. It means 3 documents it is getting generated. So the get data count was again. So initially, if you want to get the data count, it was most of the time people are using the scripting to get the data count. But now with some releases, later on releases, set property has been given an access to the data count using the metadata. Okay, so the document count has been given. So this is the way you can write anything to logs or to the process log. So this will help you to debug in something issues with custom scripting. And this is the way you can access the document index and you can use it anywhere. This is the one of the use case where you can use how we can use the document index. But typically if you want to process it in a batch and you want to assign some particular index batch number or something, what you can do is typically you can do a set property and define some kind of a batch. Maybe you can define as a dynamic property or even you can define as a dynamic document property. Maybe you can define it as, because if you don't want at record level, you want as a overall document level, you can put something in batch number. With this batch number, you can store an unique value here. or sequential value or unique value. Sequential value does the same purpose of this. But typically in case of here, we can use this one instead of this batch index, but we cannot use always. But if I index the batch count 3 or 4, right, because this will be very. For example, if I put a batch count of 4, maybe we can also see whether the branch will be able to set that value. Okay, same, we'll just set it here. So since this document property is no longer accessible at the second branch because it's defined at the branch one, right? So it's no longer accessible. Now let's see whether this will generate the same purpose as this. Will generate some kind of sequential value. It internally stores, it internally, okay, it internally stores the sequential value key, and then it will just generate. So we will just put this one. If this approach works, right, so then you can use this approach. But if you want to increment any of these values, right, then it won't, the way of how you want to index the batch one, like, you won't get more flexibility here with the set property, because set properties always do a transformations, or appending will basically do a concat, string concat things. You cannot add anything onto the index one. Let's see if this is generating same output as this. Yes, okay. So default, I think batch count sequential value is already coming as a 1, I think. I think this also solving as the same purpose. Let's see both the outputs you are able to get. Yeah. So it says you have an option where you want to go with custom scripting or you don't want to go with custom scripting. With these options also, you will be able to get the sequential value. Or else what you can do, you can write some kind of custom scripting, and the custom scripting step, you can keep it here and you can increment that value also. So whenever you want to process some kind of loading some customers to some system, and you want to see how many documents processed successfully, how many documents failed, like error, or how many total documents, success document, error document count you want to do. So typically they'll use some kind of some small script. That script is basically increments the number of values, something like I is equal to I plus 1 in traditional programming language for implementing. So this is what I wanted to show you in this one. Thanks for watching this video. So if you have any doubts, you can comment in the video. I can check and reply. Okay, thank you so much.